Speak to Peter Morici, who's an economist and professor of business at the University of Maryland, and joins me now from Washington, D.C. Good to have you with us, Peter. So, I mean, Donald Trump is saying, look, there is no conflict of interest. I can be a president. I can also take economic decisions and have this massive business empire. I mean, can that possibly be true?
No, it's not possibly true, but it's also not possible to put his business interest in a blind trust as we've done for other officials and for other presidents. Simply, everything's got his name on it. How can he not know that his decisions influence his business holdings? And the calls in Congress for him to put them, to completely segregate himself are silly as well. There's really no easy solution to this problem, but he could conduct himself with more sensitivity.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there is no legal requirement to cut business ties or liquidate assets, but it is the case that past US presidents have set aside their business dealings, haven't they?
Well, I think I've already addressed that, haven't I? I said that it would be very difficult for him to put aside his business dealings, because how do you put what they've done is put them in a blind trust, so he doesn't know how his decisions
he's talking about possibly handing it all
those.
over to Ivanka, his daughter. I mean, would that be a solution?
Well, certainly that's the beginning of a solution, handing it over to his family, his children, and then his children kind of exiting from the White House and not being around when he meets with foreign leaders. Those would be very positive steps. But unfortunately, his name is on everything. He goes to Argentina. He meets with the president of Argentina. He's got to know that whatever he does has an influence on how his properties are treated. This is very different than, say, when Nelson Rockefeller was appointed vice president by Gerald Ford. His business holdings were so large that they posed problems for Congress. But in reality, most of those were things that could be put in a trust, and he would not know how they were traded, bought and sold, and so forth. It is very difficult for Mr. Trump to be blind to what happens to his business holding once he comes into the White House. But what he could do is put them in the hands of his children and then get his children out of the White House. I don't think either his children nor his son-in-law should be involved in the day-to-day running of the government.
Well, I mean, critics, of course, would say, look, just handing it on to family members is not going to end any kind of conflict of interest. But I think you put your finger on the problem there when you said, this is an unprecedented situation. We've never had a president with such massive business interests. So, you wonder if there is a solution which will satisfy all sides.
Well, the Democrats in Congress can never be satisfied. Could you possibly see a circumstance, I know I'm being rhetorical with you now, where Nancy Pelosi is satisfied? I mean, Nancy Pelosi reads from this book that says all of the problems of civilization since Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden were caused by Republicans, even before there were Republicans. And when Republicans are in office, they cause nothing but problems. Now, someone that reads from that book will never be satisfied by his actions. But I think it is possible for people with good minds and of goodwill to come up with some kind of solution to this problem, recognizing it's not a perfect solution. As for him being absolved from any legal requirements, that only goes so far. Congress does not hold the President of the United States accountable under the normal laws, but it is possible to impeach him. And if he were to do things that were self-dealing or self-interested with his presidential powers, he could and would likely be impeached. So he has to be very careful. He said yesterday, well, I'm exempt from these laws, so there's, it's okay for me to do what I like. He cannot be running this business from the White House. He decided to be president, so he's just going to have to get let loose of his toys. That's tough for Donald.
Interesting stuff. Peter, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Peter Morici in Washington there.